I gathered the courage to ask my girlfriend to include another girl during our act. Asking her to have another girl join was the worst decision of my life. I shouldn't have done it on Valentine's Day of all days, but I did, and there's no turning back. It was around this time last year when my wife said to me, "Happy Valentine's Day, darling. I have a surprise." I replied, "It's a threesome." I meant it, and she knew it, partly from my facial expression and partly because it wasn't the first time I had brought it up. In retrospect, Valentine's Day probably wasn't the best day to mention it again. She had never been very receptive to the idea, but she hadn't completely ruled it out either. When she got home from work later that night and offered me a threesome, I was pleasantly surprised. "You were right before. My surprise is a threesome," she said with a seductive smile. "The best wife in the world. That's why I bought you this," I said, handing her a bouquet of flowers and a Valentine's Day card. "Oh, happy Valentine's Day," she said, kissing me. Looking back, I'm not even sure why I wanted a threesome in the first place. My wife and I had a perfectly great sex life, just the two of us, and logistically, 3 people. It sounded complicated, but I'd never done it before, and it was one of those things I wanted to tick off my bucket list. Then, "Who are you thinking of? You know, for the girl, the third?" I asked. "That's a surprise," she replied. "Get ready to go out in 15 minutes. Suddenly, my heart started racing. Goosebumps covered my body. In that moment, I replied, "Finally, it was happening." I thought to myself, and very soon I ran to the bedroom to pack whatever one brings to a threesome. But I was immediately perplexed. While searching for condoms in the room, I realized that after being married for a few years, I wasn't going to find any, so I settled for a bottle of cologne and my sexiest boxer briefs. I stuffed them in a backpack and waited patiently by the door. "I've never seen you so excited to leave the house," my wife remarked, as she slung an unusually large bag over her shoulder. I asked her with a flirtatious smile. "Oh, you'll find out very soon," she replied, joking with me. "Now what are you waiting for?" I did as she asked me to. I got into the car and climbed into the driver's seat while she locked up the house. I asked her once she was finally in the car. "The motel," she said, entering its name into the GPS. "That place isn't exactly romantic." I should have noticed it by the way she said it, but I was too excited, too distracted by what was about to happen, to catch any nuance in her voice. About 20 minutes later, we arrived at the motel. My wife checked in under our name and chose someone. When we entered the room, I almost expected to see someone inside, a woman chosen by my wife lying on the bed waiting for us. But when we turned on the light, the room was empty. A small, run-down motel room full of stuff. My wife must have noticed my judgmental look. "Don't judge a book by its cover. For what we're doing, only the bed matters," she said as she closed the door behind us. "She'll be here any minute now," she added, and hearing those words thrilled me. I ran to the bathroom to freshen up, and when I came out, my wife had already let in our guest, our third. There, sitting at the foot of the bed in nothing but lingerie, was a blonde woman who was in the midst of kissing my wife. Upon hearing me enter, both of them stopped and turned to look at me. "Of course, don't stop on my account," I said. My wife stepped back and sat on a chair next to the bed. "You two go first, I want to watch," she said. I thought to myself while shitting bricks, nervous that after fantasizing about this moment for years, I wouldn't be able to act. The woman took my hand and led me to the bed, where she turned me onto my back, jumped on top of me, and began kissing me. It was at that moment that I felt my wife moving around in the room behind us, but I was too aroused and too distracted by what was happening to think. Then I caught a whiff of something. I wondered what it was, but before I could look around to see what might be causing it, the woman looked at me and smiled in a way that made my heart race even faster. I was already nervous, anxious, trying to process that this moment, which once felt like a distant dream, was actually happening. She ran her hands over my chest with a soft, inviting touch, and for a moment, everything else faded away. My wife, sitting beside us, watched with a satisfied expression, as if she were savoring every second of an experience that had once seemed impossible. The next few minutes were intense. Everything flowed naturally, without awkwardness or hesitation. I didn't know if it was the adrenaline, the excitement of the moment, or the unexpected chemistry between the 3 of us, but each second felt like a revelation. My wife, who at first said she just wanted to watch, eventually joined in, and at that moment, I felt like nothing could be more perfect. It was as if we were completely in sync, knowing exactly what the other wanted. I had never seen her like this before, so completely immersed in the moment. When everything was over, we lay there exhausted. The motel room was silent except for the faint sound of the TV playing in the background, which we didn't even remember turning on. The blonde woman gathered her things, gave us one last playful smile, and kissed each of us on the cheek before leaving. As soon as the door closed, I turned to my wife and held her hand. "That was incredible," I said, still trying to catch my breath. She smiled, her eyes shining with excitement. "Even better than I imagined," she replied. We got dressed slowly, taking our time. I felt like I had achieved something I never thought possible. The ride home was quiet, but it was a comfortable silence where words weren't needed. I held her hand the entire way, feeling more connected to her than ever before. When we got home, it was already late at night. We showered together, sharing knowing smiles, and got into bed. Just before turning off the light, she turned to me, still with that lingering excitement in her expression. "I have a special request," she said, hesitating slightly. I smiled, curious. "Anything, love?" She took a deep breath before speaking. "I want to do it again, but with someone else." I frowned, confused. "Someone else?" "Yes," she murmured, biting her lip. "But not another woman." The air suddenly felt heavier. My body tensed before I even realized it. "What do you mean?" I asked, a strange feeling forming in my chest. She looked away for a moment, as if gathering the courage to continue. "I want to try it with another man." The shock hit me instantly. It was like a bucket of ice-cold water had been dumped over me. My heart, which had been racing with excitement just moments ago, was now pounding for an entirely different reason. "Wait, what?" She sighed and squeezed my hand. "You got to experience something new tonight, and it was amazing. Now I want to know what that would be like for me. I want to feel what it's like from the other perspective." My mind was spinning. I didn't know how to respond. Just moments ago, everything had seemed perfect, like we had unlocked a new level in our relationship, but this was too much. "Are you serious?" I asked, hoping she was joking, but her expression was unwavering. She wasn't joking. "Yes," she said. "I want to know what it's like to be with another man, and I want you to be there, just like I was tonight." I felt a knot in my stomach. "You want me to watch? Or join in?" she said with a shrug. "But yes, I want you there with me." My mind refused to process what I was hearing. My chest tightened. I looked at her, searching for any hesitation, any doubt in her face, but there was none. She looked determined. "You want another man? After what we just experienced?" She squeezed my fingers between hers. "It's not about wanting someone else, love. It's about the experience. You got yours tonight, and I loved sharing that with you. Now I want the same for me." I stood up from the bed without saying anything. I walked to the bathroom and gripped the sink, breathing deeply. I looked at my reflection in the mirror and saw the turmoil in my own eyes. What was I supposed to say? How was I supposed to react? After a few minutes, I returned to the bedroom. She was still sitting on the bed, watching me expectantly. "So?" she asked. I let out a humorless laugh. "So what? Do you really think this is fair?" She frowned. "You wanted to be with another woman." And I agreed. "Why is this any different?" I ran a hand down my face, trying to contain the anger that was slowly rising inside me. "Because I never wanted to see another man touching you." She crossed her arms. "And I never wanted to see you with another woman, but I did it because I love you and I wanted to make you happy." Silence filled the room. I had no response. She stood up and walked over to me. "Think about it," she whispered. "I'm only asking for the same thing you asked of me." I couldn't answer. I turned around and left the room. I spent the entire night on the couch, unable to sleep, my mind racing. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She kissed me, made coffee, talked about her plans for the day. But I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. Something inside me had changed. Something had broken. And the worst part was knowing there was no going back. I sat on the couch, staring at nothing. My heart was pounding, but not from excitement or desire anymore. It was a mix of anger, disbelief, and something I didn't want to admit, fear. Fear that this conversation had crossed a line, one that, once passed, had no way back. I had spent the entire night without sleeping, replaying every moment in my head. From the second she made that ridiculous request to now, where I sat alone, trying to process the fact that maybe I didn't know. My wife, as well as I thought. The sun started to rise and I heard her footsteps coming from the bedroom. I didn't move. I had no energy left to pretend things were normal. She walked into the living room and looked at me, surprised to see me there. "Did you sleep here?" she asked, as if nothing had happened. I took a deep breath before answering. "Yeah." She sat next to me and took my hand. Her touch, which once felt comforting, now felt cold. "Look, love, I know what I asked caught you off guard, but it doesn't have to be a big deal. We can talk about it." I finally looked at her. My eyes were heavy, not just from exhaustion, but from everything I was feeling. "Do you really not see the problem with this?" I asked, trying to keep my frustration in check. She sighed like she had been expecting this reaction. You're acting like I cheated on you, like I did something wrong. All I did was tell you what I wanted, the same way you told me what you wanted. What's the difference? I felt my blood boil at the comparison. The difference? I let out a humorless laugh. The difference is that I never asked you to do something that would make you uncomfortable. I asked about a threesome with another woman because I knew deep down it wouldn't hurt you. You agreed. You were there with me. And from what I saw, you even enjoyed it. But what you're asking me now is completely different. She rolled her eyes. Different because I'm a woman and you're a man? Because you think only men should get to have these experiences? That's not it. I stood up, running my hands through my hair, trying to think straight. I don't want this. I don't want to see another man touching you. It doesn't excite me. It doesn't make me happy. In fact, just thinking about it makes me feel betrayed. She frowned, looking offended. Betrayed? Then I should have felt betrayed last night too, right? Should I have been angry watching you with another woman? I crossed my arms, shaking my head. It's not the same thing. You were there. We did it together. It wasn't just me with someone else. But now you want to bring a man into our relationship. You want me to watch, and I just can't accept that. She was silent for a moment, watching me as if trying to figure out my reaction. Then she finally spoke. You're being a hypocrite. I laughed bitterly, unable to believe what I was hearing. A hypocrite? Yes, she said firmly. You wanted to have fun with another woman, and I accepted it. But when I want something similar, you lose your mind. That says a lot about you, you know? You're twisting everything. I snapped, unable to hold it in anymore. I love you, but what you're asking, it's not just something that makes me uncomfortable. It's something that would break me. I can't imagine watching you with another man. Not after everything we've built together. She crossed her arms and looked at me with frustration and disappointment. So you expected me to accept what you wanted without question? But when I want something, suddenly it's a problem? You think you get to decide what's fair and what isn't? I ran my hands over my face, feeling the desperation growing inside me. It's not about rules, it's about respect. I respected you. I respected your boundaries. I would never force you into something that hurt you. But now here you are, insisting on something that you know would destroy me. How is that fair? She stayed quiet for a moment. I thought for just a second that maybe she would understand, that maybe she would realize this wasn't just some irrational reaction, but something that was genuinely hurting me. But then, she took a deep breath and said, if it were the other way around, you'd expect me to accept it. I felt a lump in my throat. So what? If I don't agree, you're going to do it anyway? I asked, looking her directly in the eye. She didn't answer right away. She bit her lip, glanced away for a second, then met my gaze again. I don't know, she finally said. But I do know that if you really loved me, you'd at least think about it. A bitter taste filled my mouth. So now my love for you depends on how much I'm willing to endure watching you with another man? She didn't answer. She just looked at me with a neutral expression, like she was waiting for my reaction. But in that moment, something inside me simply broke. I don't think I can do this anymore, I murmured, almost not realizing. I had said it out loud. Her eyes widened in shock. What? I stared at her, and for the first time since this conversation started, I felt like there was nothing left to say. I can't be with someone who thinks love is measured like this. I can't be with someone who, after everything, still thinks this is fair. The silence between us was suffocating. She opened her mouth to say something but stopped, like she had finally realized that nothing she said would change how I felt. I stood up and walked to the bedroom to pack my things. My heart felt heavy. My hands were shaking. Part of me wanted her to stop me, to say she was wrong, that she regretted it. But she didn't say a word, and that told me everything I needed to know. She didn't care, and I couldn't stay any longer. After leaving the bedroom, still feeling the weight in my chest, I sat down on the couch, not knowing what to do. My mind was in chaos. I knew the conversation we had wouldn't just disappear from my thoughts. I needed a second opinion. I needed to know if I was really overreacting. So, without thinking too much, I grabbed my phone, opened Reddit, and made an anonymous post. My wife and I recently had an experience with another woman. It was something I had always wanted, and she agreed. Everything went well, but now she has asked to have the same experience, but with another man. She wants me to be there, watching or participating. I told her that it makes me uncomfortable and that I don't want to, but she thinks I'm being a hypocrite because I had my chance, and now she wants hers. Am I wrong for not wanting this? Am I being unfair? I posted it and put my phone down. I sat there staring at the wall, waiting for responses, believing that at least some people would understand my side. But when I opened the app a few minutes later, the comments had started flooding in. and most of them weren't on my side. Yes, you're a hypocrite. You wanted another woman, but now that it's her turn, you refuse? If the roles were reversed and she had refused the threesome, you'd probably call her selfish. You had your fun, and now you want to deny her the same thing? Grow up. She did it to make you happy, and now you should do the same. With every comment I read, my frustration grew. Was I really the villain in this story? How could no one see the difference? How could no one understand that this wasn't just about fairness, but about the fact that, to me, this wasn't just uncomfortable? It was devastating. I sat there staring at the screen, watching hundreds of people judge me like I was the worst person in the world, as if I were selfish or even manipulative. But one comment in particular really got to me. If you had said no to the threesome from the start, you'd have an argument. But you wanted it, you insisted, and she agreed. Now that it's her turn, you say no. That's not love. That's control. I felt my stomach sink. I knew it wasn't about control. I knew I wasn't saying no just to be selfish. But somehow, seeing so many people judge me so harshly made me question if I had really been fair. I put my phone away and sat there, unmoving, thinking. The only person who could give me a real answer was her. I needed to understand what was going on in her mind. I needed to know how far this went. I got up and walked back to the bedroom. She was sitting on the bed scrolling through her phone, not even noticing me at first. When she looked up at me, she didn't seem surprised, but she also didn't look guilty. "We need to talk," I said, keeping my voice as calm as possible. She put down her phone and looked at me. "About what?" she asked, like she already knew. I sat at the edge of the bed, rubbing my hands together, still feeling the tightness in my chest. I made an anonymous post about what happened. I started. I asked if I was wrong for not wanting this. She raised an eyebrow, clearly curious. "And what did they say?" I swallowed hard. "That I'm a hypocrite. That if I accepted a threesome with another woman, I should accept this with another man. That I'm being unfair." She nodded slowly, as if she wasn't surprised. "And now?" I sighed, feeling the weight of every word before saying it. "I still don't want this, but I need to understand better." Her eyes lit up for a moment, maybe with hope, maybe with relief. "What do you want to know? Do you already have someone in mind?" She didn't answer immediately. The silence that followed was the worst part of this conversation. I wanted her to say no, that it was just a vague idea, but her silence said more than words ever could. "You do," I stated, feeling my chest tighten. She looked away, biting her lip, as if carefully choosing her words. "It's not what you think. Then explain it." I cut in, my patience running thin. She took a deep breath, crossing her arms. I had someone in mind in case you agreed. I didn't want to mention it before knowing your stance on it." "Who?" I asked, my voice colder than I expected. She hesitated. 1 second. 2. "A friend of mine." I felt my entire body tense up. "A friend?" I repeated, as if I hadn't heard correctly. She nodded slowly. "Someone I trust. Someone who knows how to respect boundaries." I stood up, feeling my head spin. "How long have you been thinking about this?" I asked, refusing to believe this was something new. She ran a hand over her face like she was tired of the conversation. "Since before our threesome." A chill ran down my spine. "You wanted this even before we brought another woman into our relationship?" She closed her eyes for a moment and nodded. "Yes, but I knew you'd never agree if I asked first." My heart sank. This whole time, all of this, and she had already planned this in her head. "So you only agreed to the threesome because you wanted to convince me afterward?" She opened her eyes and looked at me seriously. "I agreed because I love you and wanted you to have that experience. But yes, deep down, I also hoped it would help you understand my side." I couldn't respond. My chest was burning, my throat was tight. I didn't know what was worse, the fact that she already had someone in mind or the fact that she never wanted the threesome for the reason I thought. The weight of the truth crashed down on me in a way I hadn't expected. I never had a choice. This was always a one-way street. I just didn't realize it until it was too late. The day arrived. I had spent the entire week trying not to think about it, convincing myself that somehow I could get through this. But deep down, I knew. I knew that nothing in the world could prepare me for what was about to happen. From the moment I woke up, my stomach was in knots. I couldn't eat. I couldn't focus on anything. My mind kept replaying that conversation, that confession, how she had already had someone in mind, a friend. She was excited. She didn't even try to hide it. I could see it in the way she was getting ready, the way she carefully picked out her lingerie, more deliberately than usual. I wanted to scream, to ask if she couldn't see what she was doing to me, but every time I opened my mouth to say something, I just couldn't. Was it fear, shame, or just the simple fact that no matter what I said, she had already made up her mind? So I just sat there, watching as she prepared herself for something that clearly meant more to her than anything we had ever done together. The doorbell rang. My throat went dry instantly. My heart started pounding. She looked at me through the mirror and smiled. "Everything's going to be fine," she said, as if she was reassuring me. I didn't respond. She walked to the door and opened it, and then I saw him. This guy wasn't normal. That was my first thought. Tall, broad shoulders, a physique that looked sculpted by gods. He wasn't just handsome, he was imposing. I felt insignificant just looking at him. And my wife, the way she looked at him, the way her eyes lit up, like she was seeing something she had always wanted but never dared to admit. I should have stopped it right there. I should have stood up and said, "Enough," but I didn't. I froze, trapped between. The pride of not wanting to admit that this was tearing me apart, and the fear that if I spoke, she would look at me with disappointment. I was weak, and that weakness kept me in place. The two of them walked past me like I was just another piece of furniture in the room. The guy shook my hand firmly, smiling, as if we were old friends. "Nice to meet you, man. Nice to meet you." I wanted to laugh, but I just nodded, trying not to show what I was really feeling. They walked to the bedroom. She didn't even look back, and I just sat there. For a moment, I thought maybe I could ignore it. Maybe if I turned the TV up loud, maybe if I put on headphones, maybe if I just pretended that nothing was happening, it wouldn't be so bad. But then I heard it. I heard things I had never heard before. I heard my wife like I had never heard her before, and it destroyed me. Every sound was a stab to the chest. Every laugh, every gasp, every moan ripped another piece of my dignity away, leaving me sitting there, hands gripping my head, feeling my soul shatter. And then came the final blow. Her voice. "Oh my God, you're huge." I stopped breathing. My entire body went numb. I already knew this guy was different. I already knew I had no chance of competing. But hearing it killed me. I wasn't enough. I never was. And now I knew. I don't know how long I sat there listening, suffering, dying inside. But eventually there was silence. And then laughter. They were talking, as if nothing had happened. As if this was just another casual moment in their lives. And me was done. When they finally came out of the bedroom, she was glowing in a way I had never seen before. The guy patted me on the shoulder before leaving. "Thanks, man. That was amazing." I couldn't respond. The door shut behind him, and then, the worst part, she looked at me and smiled. "Babe, I had no idea it could be like that." She said it with a sparkle in her eyes, with genuine happiness, as if she expected me to be happy for her, as if everything was perfectly fine, but I was never the same again. Never. I stood there staring at her, searching for something in her face that would tell me that what I had just witnessed wasn't real, that maybe somehow it hadn't meant as much to her as it seemed. But I found nothing. All I saw was a woman, glowing with satisfaction, beaming as if tonight had been a gift from the gods, as if I wasn't even there. The silence between us was suffocating, but she didn't seem to notice. "Babe," she started, taking a step toward me. I instinctively stepped back. "No." My voice was low, but it carried a firmness I hadn't expected. She frowned, confused. "What's wrong?" That was the last straw. "What's wrong?" I let out a hollow laugh. "Are you seriously asking me that?" She blinked, as if trying to process my reaction. What happened here tonight wasn't right. My chest burned with frustration. This should have never happened. She crossed her arms. "But we both agreed to it." "No, you agreed to it. You made this decision. You pressured me into accepting it." She rolled her eyes. "You knew this could happen. You insisted on bringing another woman into our bed and I accepted it. But now that I want something, suddenly it's a problem? This was completely different." "Different how? Because you're a man and I'm a woman? Because only you get to have your fantasies fulfilled?" I clenched my fists, feeling my anger rise. "Do you seriously think that's the issue?" She sighed. "Then what is the issue?" "The issue is that you never wanted this for us. You didn't want an experience for our relationship. You wanted him. You already had him in mind before this was even a discussion. This was never about equality or about exploring together. It was about getting what you wanted." She fell silent for a moment. I knew I had struck a nerve. But instead of admitting it, she tried to justify herself. "That's not true." "Oh, really? Then tell me, did you even think about me at any point?" Because I was there, sitting in that living room, listening to everything, listening to you say things you've never said to me, watching you react in ways you never have with me. She bit her lip, searching for words. It was something new, something different. Of course, it felt intense. Different? I cut her off, my voice dripping with bitterness. This wasn't different. It was better for you. Much better. So much that you didn't even care whether I was there or not. She looked away, unable to respond. It wasn't like that, she murmured. Of course it was. And the worst part? You don't even realize what you've done. You don't even understand that you just broke me. She rolled her eyes again. You're overreacting. That was it. That was the final push. Overreacting? I let out a bitter chuckle. You destroyed everything we built, humiliated me in the worst way possible, and I'm the one overreacting? She stared at me coldly. I didn't cheat on you. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Oh, really? Then tell me, what was this? It was an experience, she insisted. Something within our relationship. If I had done this behind your back, then it would have been cheating. I stared at her, stunned by her audacity. Oh, I see. So if I put a knife in your hand and warn you that I'm going to stab you, does that mean it's not murder? She scoffed, impatient. You're twisting everything. No, I'm not. My voice was steel now. Do you want to know the difference? The difference is that in our threesome, I was still with you. I wanted to share an experience with you. I didn't want another woman. I wanted us to have something together. But you weren't there for me. You only agreed to it because deep down, you already knew what you wanted for yourself. She opened her mouth to argue, but stopped. Because she knew I was right. She had wanted this long before she ever suggested the first threesome. And that hurt the most. I can't stay here. My voice was hollow, the weight of those words crushing me. Her eyes widened. What? I took a deep breath. I can't be with someone who did this to me. Who went through everything that happened tonight and didn't feel a shred of regret. Who had the nerve to smile at me after it was over, as if I should just accept it. Don't be ridiculous, she snapped, her voice shifting, sounding desperate now. You're going to throw away our relationship over this? No, you threw it away when you decided I wasn't enough. She stared at me, searching for something in my face, some hesitation, some doubt, but there was nothing left. I was broken, and she knew it. Babe, please, let's talk. Let's think about this. I love you. I looked at her one last time, and I realized that I didn't love her anymore. Not after what had happened. Not after seeing her glow for another man. Goodbye. Her lips parted as if to say something, but no words came out. I grabbed my things and I walked out of the home that had once been mine, never to return. I didn't look back. I didn't let myself hesitate. Every step I took felt like closing an entire chapter of my life. But the worst part, I didn't know if I would ever be able to start again. During dinner, my grandfather asked, "Did you like the car I gave you as a present last year?" I replied that I hadn't received any car. Then my parents froze, and the truth came to light. My name is Jake. I'm 23 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've always been the son that nobody wanted around. It's not one of those dramatic stories of abandonment or domestic violence. It's worse. It's the story of a family that simply decided I didn't matter enough. My parents, Sarah and Robert, were always very clear about who the favorite was. My sister Madison, 2 years younger, was the princess of the house. She was the one who received the best toys at Christmas. She was the one who got brand name clothes. She was the one who heard words of encouragement when she got mediocre grades at school. I, on the other hand, could come home with a first-place certificate in Math Olympics and receive only a, "That's nice, but don't get cocky about it." I grew up accustomed to comparisons. "Look how affectionate Madison is," my mother would say when I tried to show affection. "See how spontaneous and fun she is," my father would add when I tried to tell some joke or interesting story. It was as if I were a poorly made draft of the person they really wanted as a son. When I finished high school with a 9.2 average and was accepted into 3 different universities, my parents barely looked up from the television. "University is very expensive, Jake," said my mother without even looking at me. "Besides, Madison will need support when her turn comes. She has a bright future ahead." At 18, while my sister got a new laptop to prepare for college entrance exams, I started working at an electronics store in the city mall. It wasn't my dream job, but it paid enough for me to support myself. I organized products, served customers, and sometimes even managed to make some good sales that earned me extra commission. The work was tiring, especially on weekends when the mall got crowded. I'd come home with aching feet and dry hands from handling so many products, but there was a certain dignity in it. I was building something on my own, without depending on anyone. Meanwhile, Madison continued living like a princess. At 20, she had never worked a single day. She spent afternoons at the gym, went out with friends for lunch at expensive restaurants, and always had money to buy whatever she wanted. My parents justified it by saying she was preparing for the job market, and that she was still too young to worry about these things. What intrigued me was where all that money came from. My father worked as an accountant at a small company, and my mother gave private English lessons a few times a week. It didn't seem enough to afford the lifestyle they led, especially considering all of Madison's expenses. The answer came when I was 19. My paternal grandfather William called to talk to me. He had always been different from my parents. When I was a child, he would take me fishing at the river that ran near his house, teach me to fix bicycles in his garage, and always listen to me attentively when I talked about my dreams and plans. "Jake, my boy," he said in that call, "I'm moving to Portugal. I got a good job opportunity there, and I think it'll be good for me to start over." I was sad, but I understood. He had been widowed 2 years ago and maybe really needed a change of scenery. "But don't worry," he continued. "I'll always take care of the family from there. Every month I'll send money to help you all. I want you to be able to study, to have the opportunities you deserve." After he moved, things at home visibly improved. My parents stopped complaining so much about bills. Madison started showing up in even more expensive clothes, and they even renovated the kitchen. When I asked about Grandpa William's money, my mother said he sent an amount every month to help with general household expenses. I didn't question much. After all, I had my job and could manage on my own. But sometimes I wondered if part of that money shouldn't be directed toward me, since Grandpa had specifically mentioned my studies. Contact with my grandfather became sporadic. He would call from time to time, always asking how I was, if I was managing to study, if I needed anything. I always said everything was fine, that I was working and managing on my own. He seemed proud, but also worried. "You've always been a special boy. Jake," he would tell me, "you have a good heart and a determination that few have. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're worth nothing." Those words sustained me on difficult days. When I'd come home tired from work and hear my family making comments about my mediocre job or about how I had no ambition, at least one person in the world believed in me. On my 23rd birthday, to my surprise, I found a small cake on the kitchen table when I got home from work. It wasn't much, one of those supermarket ones with artificial frosting, but it was there. My parents and Madison sang happy birthday, with the same enthusiasm of someone fulfilling a boring obligation. "It's from Grandpa William," my mother explained. "He asked us to organize something for you." I was touched. Even from far away, my grandfather remembered me. It was more than my own family usually did. We ate the cake in silence, each one lost in their own thoughts, and then everyone went back to their normal activities. But in the following weeks, I noticed strange changes. My parents started showing off even more. My mother appeared with a leather purse that cost more than my monthly salary. My father bought a watch that I had seen in a mall window for an absurd price. And Madison was unbearable with her designer clothes and sneakers that cost a fortune. One day I heard my mother on the phone talking about a trip they were planning. "It'll be just the 3 of us," she was saying. "A little getaway to relax at the beach. Everything's already booked." When I found out about the trip, I wasn't invited. "There's no room for 4 people in the room," my father explained. "And you have to work anyway, right?" They spent an entire week at a 5-star resort, posting photos on Instagram of expensive meals, colorful drinks, and moments of happy family. I stayed home, working my normal shifts, wondering where all the extra money was coming from. Could it be that Grandpa William was sending more money? Maybe he had gotten a better job in Portugal or received some inheritance. I tried not to think much about it, but curiosity was eating at me. The year passed slowly. My routine continued the same. Work, home, work, home. Sometimes I'd go out with some colleagues for a beer, but in general my social life was limited. I didn't have money for the expensive activities my family did, and I kind of got used to the loneliness. Madison continued without working, living her princess life. My parents continued treating me like I was a burden on the family, and I continued trying to prove I was worth something, even though nobody seemed to notice. When my 24th birthday was approaching, I wasn't expecting anything special. Maybe another cheap cake, maybe not even that. But then, 3 days before the date, my phone rang. "Jake, my boy, how are you?" It was Grandpa William's warm voice, which I hadn't heard in months. "Grandpa, what a surprise!" "I'm well, working hard." Great. Listen, I have news for you. I'm returning to Brazil next week. I want to be there for your birthday." My heart raced. I hadn't seen my grandfather in 3 years, and now he was coming back especially for me? "We'll have dinner at the best restaurant in town," he continued. "Invite your parents and Madison. It'll be a family celebration." I hung up the phone with a smile that hadn't appeared on my face in a long time. Finally, Someone who really cared about me would be here. I could barely wait to see Grandpa William again. When I told my family about the visit, the reaction was strange. My parents exchanged nervous glances, and Madison was quieter than usual. "That's good," said my mother, but her voice sounded forced. It'll be good to see Grandpa William again." I didn't understand why they seemed so uncomfortable. After all, it was Grandpa William who was funding their lifestyle. Shouldn't they be anxious to see him? But I didn't think much about it. I was too busy imagining what it would be like to reunite with the only person who had always believed in me. The day finally arrived. My grandfather William showed up at the front door in the middle of the afternoon, with that wide smile I remembered from my childhood. He was thinner, his hair grayer, but he had the same contagious energy as always. "My boy," he said, wrapping me in a tight hug. "How you've grown! You're a grown man." I felt an emotion I hadn't experienced in years. Here was someone who was genuinely happy to see me, who hugged me like I was the most important person in the world. My parents greeted Grandpa William with forced smiles, and Madison barely looked up from her phone. "Come on, family," said my grandfather, clapping his hands. "Today is a day of celebration. I reserved a table at Terrasso do Valle." My eyes widened. Terrasso do Valle was the fanciest restaurant in town, the kind of place where dishes cost more than I earned in a day of work. During the trip to the restaurant, my grandfather wouldn't stop asking me questions. He wanted to know how work was going, if I was happy, what plans I had for the future. It was the first time in years that someone showed genuine interest in my life. "I'm very proud of you, Jake," he said, putting his hand on my shoulder. "Working hard since you were 18, supporting yourself, that shows character." From the back seat, I heard Madison mutter, "Working at the mall isn't exactly impressive." My father chuckled, and my mother sighed as if she were annoyed. The restaurant was even more elegant than I had imagined. Waiters in impeccable uniforms, tables with linen tablecloths, crystal glasses that sparkled under the candlelight. I felt out of place in my simple shirt and jeans, but my grandfather reassured me. "You look perfect, my boy. True elegance comes from within." The dinner was a surreal experience. The food was incredible, each dish a work of art. My grandfather ordered expensive wine and made sure to include me in all the toasts. For the first time in my life, I felt truly celebrated. But my family was acting strange. My parents spoke little and always seemed nervous when my grandfather asked me any questions. Madison was on her phone the whole time, clearly bored. When they tried to talk, they always ended up making derogatory comments about me. "Another year at the mall, right, Jake?" said Madison with that tone of superiority I knew well. "When are you going to get a real job?" My mother laughed. "Yeah. At your age, you should have more ambition." I felt my face heat up with anger and shame, but my grandfather immediately came to my defense. "Ambition? This boy has been working since he was 18. While others his age are spending their parents' money, he's building his independence. That's much more than ambition. It's dignity." The awkwardness at the table was palpable. My parents lowered their eyes, and Madison finally put away her phone. Dessert arrived, a delicious tiramisu that cost more than my lunch for a week. It was then that my grandfather looked at me with that loving smile and asked the question that changed everything. "By the way, Jake, tell me, how was the gift I sent you last year?" I was confused for a moment. "The gift?" "Yes, the birthday gift. Did you like it?" I thought about the cheap cake my parents had bought. "Oh yes, thank you for the cake, Grandpa. It was very thoughtful of you." My grandfather's smile disappeared. He frowned as if something wasn't adding up. "Cake? What cake?" "The cake you asked them to buy for my birthday," I explained, starting to feel a chill in my stomach. "Jake, I didn't ask them to buy any cake," he said, looking directly at my parents. "What's this story?" My mother tried to intervene. "Dad, maybe there was a misunderstanding." "No," said my grandfather, raising his hand. "No misunderstanding. Jake, didn't you receive the car I sent you?" The world stopped. "Car? What car?" "The red Civic I bought and had delivered to your house on your birthday. A brand new car, with all the documents in your name." I felt like the ground had disappeared under my feet. I didn't receive any car, Grandpa. Just the cake." The silence at the table was deafening. My parents were pale, and Madison had stopped breathing. My grandfather looked at each of them, and I saw his expression change from confusion to a cold fury I had never seen in him. "Where?" he said, pronouncing each word with dangerous calm. "Is the car I bought for my grandson?" My parents started stammering, trying to make up excuses. My mother said something about delivery problems. My father blamed the transport company. But my grandfather wasn't stupid. He had built a company from scratch. He knew when they were lying to him. "I want the truth," he said, hitting his hand on the table so hard that the glasses trembled. "Now." The entire restaurant was looking at us. Other customers whispered among themselves, discreetly pointing at our table. But I didn't care. I was in total shock. A car? My grandfather had given me a car? It was my mother who finally gave in. With a trembling voice, she confessed, We sold the car." "Sold?" I shouted, unable to control myself. "You sold my car?" "We needed the money," said my father, trying to justify himself. Things were difficult and Madison was needing... "Madison was needing what?" I exploded. More designer clothes, more expensive sneakers, more resort trips? My grandfather was absolutely livid. "You took the gift I bought specifically for Jake and sold it to pay for Madison's luxuries?" "It wasn't just for Madison," my mother tried to defend herself. "It was for the whole family. We took that trip, bought things we needed." "Lies!" I shouted. "I didn't go on the trip. I never saw a cent of that money. You spent it all on yourselves." My grandfather stood up from his chair. 32,000 reais, he said, his voice cutting. "That's what the car was worth. 32,000 reais that I saved working in Portugal to give a decent gift to my grandson. And you sold it to buy frivolities." The amount shocked me even more. 32,000 reais, more than I earned in 2 years working at the mall, and they had sold it like it was nothing. "Dad, please, let me explain," my mother tried, but my grandfather didn't want to hear it. "There's no explanation," he said. "You betrayed my trust. You stole from my grandson, and I'm sure this isn't the first time." He looked at me with an expression of deep sadness. "Jake, my boy, I need to tell you something. That car wasn't the only gift I sent you." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "For the last 3 years, every month I sent specific money for you. For your studies, for your needs, so you could have opportunities. I transferred it to your parents because I trusted they would pass it on to you. But now I understand you never saw any of it." I looked at my parents with a mixture of horror and rage. "How many years?" I asked, my voice hoarse. 3 years, my grandfather replied. 600 reais a month plus household expenses. Money that was rightfully yours. I did the math quickly. 600 reais a month for 3 years. More than 20,000 reais. Added to the 32,000 from the car, they had stolen more than 50,000 reais from me. "You're thieves," I said, with a coldness that surprised me. "Thieves from your own family." Madison finally found her voice. "Jake, don't be dramatic. That money helped the whole family." "It helped you," I corrected. "It helped pay for your clothes, your sneakers, your outings. I never saw a cent. I worked like a slave while you lived like royalty with money that was mine." My grandfather put his hand on my shoulder. "Jake, you're not staying one more day in that house. Come with me to Portugal. There you'll have the opportunities you deserve." I didn't think twice. "When?" "Now. Today. Let's get your things and go to the airport." My parents panicked. "Dad, you can't be serious," said my mother. "He's our son." "Son?" My grandfather laughed bitterly. "You treated this boy like a stranger his whole life. You humiliated him, robbed him, despised him, and now you want to talk about being a son?" He turned to me. "The decision is yours, Jake. You can stay here and continue being treated like garbage, or you can come with me and have the life you always deserved." I looked at my family. My parents were desperate, but not out of love. They were afraid of losing the money my grandfather sent. Madison seemed in shock, finally understanding that her princess life might be coming to an end. "I'm going," I said, standing up from the table. "I have nothing left here." My grandfather smiled for the first time since the truth had been revealed. "Then let's go, my boy. Your new life starts now." When we left the restaurant, leaving my family at the table with the bill to pay, I felt a relief I hadn't experienced in years. Finally, someone had seen the truth. Finally, I had a chance to be valued. "Grandpa," I said as we walked to the car, "thank you for believing in me." "I always believed," he replied, "and now you're going to see what it's like to have a real family." The trip to Portugal was like a dream. My grandfather had bought first-class tickets, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly cared for. During the flight, he told me about the new life that awaited me. "I have a consulting company in Lisbon," he explained. "I started small, but it's grown a lot in recent years. You're going to work with me, learn the business. You have a talent for this. You always did. When we arrived in Lisbon, I was impressed by his house. It was a mansion in an upscale neighborhood with impeccable gardens and a stunning view of the city. But what caught my attention most was the garage. Choose one, he said, pointing to a row of sports cars. The one that was yours is no longer there. But any of these can be yours. There was a metallic blue BMW, a gleaming black Audi, and in the corner, a red Porsche that left me breathless. That one, I said, pointing to the Porsche. Good choice, my grandfather laughed. You have good taste. In the first days, I still couldn't believe the change. I had a room bigger than my parents' living room, a closet full of clothes my grandfather had ordered, and most importantly, I had respect. My grandfather consulted me about company decisions, valued my opinions, treated me as an equal. The work at the consulting firm was challenging, but rewarding. I dealt with important clients, made complex analyses, and felt that I was finally using my potential. My salary was 10 times higher than what I earned at the mall, and for the first time in my life, I had money to do whatever I wanted. But the most important thing was the sense of belonging. My grandfather introduced me to friends as my grandson, the future of the company. He was proud of me, and that made all the difference. During the first months, my phone rang constantly. They were calls from Brazil, from my parents, and Madison. I ignored them all. I had nothing to talk about with them. They had robbed me, humiliated me, treated me like trash for years. Now that they no longer had my grandfather's money, they wanted to talk. My grandfather told me he had cut off all financial support the day after our departure. They made their bed, he said. Now let them sleep in it. 6 months later, curiosity finally won. One night, after a particularly good day at work, I decided to answer one of the calls. It was my mother. Jake, thank God, are you okay? We were worried. I almost laughed. Worried. What do you want? We want to talk, son. You're our family, we miss you here. Family. I repeated the word like it was poisonous. Where was that family when I needed it? Where was it when you sold my car to pay for Madison's princess life? Jake, please let me explain. We're going through difficulties. Without your grandfather's money, things got very difficult. They're going to evict us next week. Now I really laughed. And what does that have to do with me? You're our son. You have an obligation to help us. Obligation? What obligation do I have to you? You treated me like trash my whole life. Now you want me to be the good son who helps the family? I heard my mother start to cry. Please, Jake, we know we made mistakes, but we're your family. You can't leave us on the street. You left me on the street emotionally my whole life, I replied. Now experience what it's like literally. My father took the phone. Jake, stop this ingratitude. After everything we did for you, everything you did for me, I exploded. You stole more than 50,000 reais from me. You sold my car. You humiliated me. You treated me like I was a burden. And now you come talking about ingratitude? We raised you, gave you a house, food. You gave me the minimum required while giving the maximum to Madison. Don't come asking me for gratitude now. I heard a third voice. It was Madison. Jake, you're being dramatic. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad? I almost screamed. You spent the money that was mine on designer clothes for you. You went traveling and left me out. You mocked me every day. But now you have a good life. You don't need to be resentful. I have a good life despite you, not because of you. And you know what else? I'm happy knowing you're in misery. Finally, you're paying for what you did. My mother came back to the phone sobbing. Please, Jake. We're your family. You can't abandon us like this. You abandoned me first, I replied. The difference is that now I have a choice, and I choose to have nothing to do with you. But we're your parents. Real parents don't do what you did. Real parents don't steal from their children. Real parents don't humiliate their children to elevate others. There was a long silence. Then my mother said, What if we ask for forgiveness? Forgiveness doesn't bring back the years of humiliation. Forgiveness doesn't bring back the money you stole. Forgiveness doesn't erase the pain you caused. So you're going to leave us on the street? I'm not the one leaving you on the street. It was your choices that led you to this. You could have used Grandpa's money responsibly. You could have included me in the family. You could have treated me with respect. But you chose to humiliate and steal. Now deal with the consequences. My father tried one last card. And Madison? She's not to blame for any of this. Not to blame? I laughed with contempt. She participated in every humiliation. She laughed at me, called me a failure, took advantage of every cent of the money that was mine. She's as guilty as you are. But she's your sister. Sister is someone who stands by your side, who supports you. Madison was never my sister. She was just a stranger who shared the same house. I heard Madison scream in the background. I always hated you anyway. You were always a burden on this family. Perfect, I said, calmly. Finally, the truth. Thank you for confirming everything I always knew. My mother came back to the phone, desperate. Jake, please. At least give us a chance to redeem ourselves. You had 23 years of chances. You wasted them all. But now it's different. We understand our mistakes. You only understood when the money ran out. If Grandpa was still sending money, you wouldn't have even called me. There was another silence. I had hit the nail on the head. You know what makes me most angry? I continued. It's not even the money. It's the fact that you never really loved me. I was just an inconvenience you tolerated. And now, when you need something, you want to pretend I'm a son. We do love you, said my mother. No, you love the idea of what I can do for you now. It's different. I hung up the phone and put it on silent. I didn't want to hear their pathetic pleas anymore. My grandfather, who had heard part of the conversation, put his hand on my shoulder. How do you feel? Free, I replied. And it was true. For the first time in my life, I feel truly free. In the following weeks, my grandfather told me what was happening in Brazil. The family had been evicted and was living in a tiny apartment in a dangerous neighborhood. My father had gotten a job at a factory earning minimum wage. My mother was cleaning houses to supplement the income. And Madison, who had never worked a day in her life, had to accept a job at a coffee shop. They're paying for years of arrogance, said my grandfather. They always thought they were better than everyone else, that they deserved a life of luxury without working for it. I felt deep satisfaction knowing they were finally facing reality. It wasn't revenge, it was justice. My new life in Portugal prospered more each day. My grandfather taught me everything about the business, and I discovered I had a natural talent for it. Within a year, I was already managing important accounts and contributing significantly to the company's success. I met incredible people, made true friends, even started dating a colleague from the company, Sophia, who treated me with the respect and affection I had never experienced before. You're a special person. Jake, she would tell me, you have an inner strength that's admirable. Sometimes I would tell her about my childhood, about how my family treated me. She would be horrified. How can parents treat a child like that? It's incomprehensible. Because they never saw me as a real son, I would explain. I was just an accident they tolerated. 2 years after my departure, my phone rang again. It was a number I didn't recognize, but when I answered, I heard my mother's voice. Jake, it's me. Please don't hang up. How did you get this number? I asked an investigator to find you. Jake, please, I need to tell you something important. Against my better judgment, I listened. Madison is sick. Cancer. She needs treatment, but we don't have money. She could die. I felt a knot in my chest, but not of pity. It was anger. And what does that have to do with me? She's your sister. Even with all the problems, she's family. No, she's not. She chose not to be when she spent years humiliating me. Jake, please, she's sorry. She wants to talk to you. I'm not interested. How can you be so cold? It's a matter of life and death. She had a whole lifetime to treat me like a brother. She chose not to do that. Now, in the hour of need, she wants me to forget everything. But she's family. Family is someone who's by your side in good times and bad. Family is someone who supports you, loves you, respects you. You were never my family. You were just people who shared the same house with me. I heard sobs from the other side of the line. Jake, I know we made mistakes. We all made mistakes. But please don't let your sister die. She's not my sister, I repeated. And even if she were, you taught me that family doesn't help family. After all, when I needed help, where were you? I hung up the phone and never answered calls from that country again. 3 years passed. My life in Portugal was perfect. I had married Sophia, we bought a beautiful house in the center of Lisbon, and I had become a partner in my grandfather's company. We were rich, respected, happy. On a quiet Sunday, my grandfather called me to talk. Jake, I have something to tell you. I received a call from Brazil yesterday. My stomach contracted. About what? Madison died last week. Cancer. I felt nothing. Neither sadness nor relief, just a neutral emptiness. How are they? Destroyed. Your father had a heart attack after the funeral and is in the hospital. Your mother is alone with no money for anything. I was silent for a long time. Do you feel anything? Asked my grandfather. No, I replied honestly. Should I? There's no right or wrong here, Jake. They made choices, you made yours. They could have had a good life if they had treated me like family. They could have used the money you sent wisely. They could have created an environment of love at home. But they chose the path of humiliation and favoritism. My grandfather nodded. And now they're paying the price. I don't feel sorry, I said. I feel that justice was finally done. That night, I told Sophia everything. She hugged me tight. You did the right thing, she said. Family isn't who shares DNA with you. Family is who loves you, respects you, stands by your side. Your grandfather is your family. I am your family. She was right. I looked around, my beautiful house, my wonderful wife, my grandfather who loved me unconditionally, my prosperous company, and I realized I had found my true family, people who valued me, who believed in me, who treated me with respect and affection. That's what family really meant. My mother tried to contact me a few more times over the years, always with some new tragedy, always asking for help. I never responded. I had closed that chapter of my life forever. Today, at 28, I am a fulfilled man. I have a prosperous company, a family that loves me, true friends. I learned that sometimes to find happiness, you need to have the courage to leave behind toxic people, even if they share your blood. My grandfather William saved me, not just financially, but emotionally. He showed me what it's like to be truly loved, what it's like to have someone proud of you, what it's like to be part of a real family. And as for my biological family, well, they reaped exactly what they sowed. For years, they sowed contempt, humiliation, and selfishness. It was natural that they would reap loneliness, poverty, and regret. I feel no remorse. I feel gratitude for having had the strength to get out of that toxic situation and build a life based on true love and mutual respect. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is have the courage to abandon those who don't deserve you, even if they're family. Because true family is choice, not obligation. And I chose well.